Hello and welcome to another episode of the DewatchPod. I am Jorgen Smorgasbord.
And I am Jim with a G, and we're returning with more Star Trek Discovery.
That's right. And this one's a little bit special in the sense that I spent a lot of time preparing for it.
Really?
Yes, because Season 4 is very serialized.
Okay.
The whole show is in general, which is why I had some initial reservations. I was just like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna go with, like, this episode. I remember, and I'm pretty sure it's, like, a fairly, like, isolated story, and I go to check it out, and the story I remember is, like, maybe, like, 40% of it.
Right.
And there's just, like, a lot of characters that I don't remember doing stuff that I don't remember. So I was like, fuck, I have to, like, hunt down an episode that is, like, podcastable in a more, like, practical sense. And I went through, like, a lot of candidates, and I think I've solved the conundrum quite admirably.
Okay. Well, we thank you for your service, Jorgen. A lot of work coming into this.
Yeah, because the episode I ended up choosing, for these practical reasons, we're only doing one per season.
Yeah.
I've ended up choosing Anomaly, because it kicks off the season arc more or less.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
So it's not downstream from a season arc.
But speaking of this episode, Anomaly of ours, Season 4 of Star Trek Discovery, would we recommend that our listeners peruse this episode in their own time?
No.
No.
No, this, like, we can't get into it this much, but, like, it's not a good series.
I want to reserve judgment because we have another 3 seasons to go.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to pick up on certain things. And we'll get into that perhaps after we've gotten into some content warnings.
That's right. If you do want to watch
Anomaly.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I really was going to mash together Anomaly and content warning there for some reason.
How?
I do want to watch Anomaly, badly, content warning. You have to watch out for mass death.
And grief and trauma. We've also added suicide to this list of content warnings. To be honest, mostly discussions of these two.
Yeah.
But, it pops up, so there you are.
Yeah, and...
Speaking of mass death...
What?
Well, just as an intro to what goes on in the episode.
Yeah, so... we sort of start, despite all my efforts, in medias res.
Yes.
Where, our captain's boyfriend... yeah, they're together at this point.
Yeah, his name is Buck.
Yes. Wait, does anyone actually refer to her by name this episode?
Him?
No, her.
Yeah, Michael. He calls her Michael, like, a bunch.
I was just like, is anyone doing anything other than captaining her? But yeah, she's worried about him because his civilization got exploded by an anomaly. It sort of looks like an angry eye or something, sort of staring at you from space.
I didn't pick up on that early.
Yeah, no, I mean it's more like later, but it's there.
As far as ways to develop PTSD, having everyone you've ever known exploded in an instant, up there.
Yeah.
So he's having a bad time. He's sitting and, like, obsessing over the patterns of birds, like, before the planet explodes. And she's like, I don't think this is helping. And he's like, you gotta look at these birds, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I need you to leave right now because I'm spending more time with the birds. And he's doing very badly, and
she's not great either on her own. Because this whole event, which we have not seen
I think it happened in a previous episode or
Yeah,
something, but yeah.
has left her with some casualties as well, and so
Yeah.
she's speaking to Sorrow, the like commander or whatever
Yeah,
number one.
he becomes the first officer in this episode,
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
he's like, sounds like you're also obsessing.
And that doesn't really come up again.
Yeah,
um but yeah, no, and basically after like a little bit of exposition, we're like, all right, we gotta get more data about this bad boy.
because they believe it to be like a rowing pair of black holes.
Yeah.
So they're gonna track him down and start doing some recording.
Hmm.
And they find the black hole and they're like, this doesn't look like a black hole, black hole. Something's
Yeah, no,
weird.
everything looks wrong about this. We gotta really get in there and get some data. And it comes to be the case that the best person to lead this mission is Book.
He has his own like private little ship.
Yeah, he's like a space smuggler or something with a very good special ship.
He's a grumpier Han Solo for today.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
He doesn't really have the roguish nature to him. He's just a
No,
private
he
actor.
doesn't have like a tall, hairy sidekick either. Unlike, well, I guess Saru isn't hairy, but he is tall.
Yeah,
So
kind of different vibe.
I think my the captain still got him beat on that.
Yeah, unfortunate. But yeah, they have a little dispute where he's like, my ship is the best for it. And she's like, true. So we're sending two other people on that ship. And he's like, no, I want to go. I want to have a redemption arc for my imagined failings. And she's like, sweetie, no.
You're experiencing survivor skill, and it's throwing off your game. And he's like, but I have survivor skills, so I would like to be in the line of fire, and I happen to be the best to be in the line of fire. And she's like, fuck.
He got me. He has outcompeted me in the marketplace of reason.
Yeah, and for a moment, it looks like other people from the bridge crew are going to feature more prominently. Psych, it's Stamets, the engineer.
Who we've already met
Yes.
in our previous episode.
He is one of the main cast, as opposed to the bridge crew, who are there to look good.
Yeah. Very neat.
But to be clear, they all... Well, I think I'm mostly thinking of Detmer, who is a cool cyborg.
She's a cool cyborg.
And...
He engineer man gets to project himself into the mini ship as a hologram.
Yeah, and they are also keeping the exploratory ship on a tether from like nanomachines or something.
Yeah.
And there we have basically the sort of body of action.
Yeah, it's Storm Chasers for the rest of the episode, I want to say.
Yeah.
He goes in and he's like, wow, there's a lot of stuff to dodge around. My ship is taking damage. And she's like, my ship is also taking damage. Let's figure out why we're taking damage. It's gravity. The reason most things take damage in space. And eventually, they're like, we have to cut him loose. Which, like, I feel like I'm usually okay with, like, even if I don't quite get it, to follow along.
Mm-hmm.
To be entirely honest, I'm not clear on what the tether does.
Oh, they were gonna yank him.
So it's just that straightforward, huh?
I think so.
Alright, fair enough. Then that's on me. And they're like, we have to let him go.
I think it was literally, we will pull him out using the tether. And they're like, but we can't keep the tether because we're getting blasted.
Yeah.
For this to have a pretty sick visual effect where like everyone on the bridge gets gravity slammed.
Yeah.
And I think they use it like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
2 times. I think.
There's a couple of those waves, and you're like, the ship's gonna come apart if we don't cut him loose. But then he's gonna fucking die probably, and they're like, yeah. Anyway, so we're cutting him loose.
Yeah, we have to risk it, and then then he starts like hallucinating his dead nephew, and he doesn't. It's not quite clear whether he like wants to come back, or whether he's suicidal, or whether he's just like frozen in shock.
Yeah, it's a lot of this little trip is definitely like tinged with the sort of like a lot of danger, not a huge amount of reaction, and not necessarily in the "ooh, he's so badass" kind of way
Yeah.
of not reacting. So yeah, he begins hallucinating. There's just a good bit more where they're sort of like working out the mechanics of like how long do you have to stay here, and he's like, let's say 5 minutes, and it's like, what does the data say? And he's like, I don't know what the data says, man. Uh,
Yeah, I think we do this back and forth twice, actually.
yeah, it's the tenor and mechanics of the episode are established fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And it keeps going for a bit. But broadly, Book is having a moment where he's like kind of getting worse. But they're gathering the data. He's convincing Captain
Yeah.
Burnham. There's like, no, I need to stay in. It'll be fine. And we'll find a way out. TM.
Yeah.
And eventually they're like, well, his engines are fucked. We're going to have to think of something else. And they're like, how about surfing? Something gravitational, subspace wave, something. He needs to write it out. And this is, this is an important mechanism to touch upon because it's like his sensors are down, so he can't see these waves. So he's like, you need to listen to me and just go when I say go.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time they do this, he goes, are you sure? And she goes, go! And then he goes, and it's too late. And then he has a moment of despair. Michael, like, comes in to be like, hey, babe. Notice you didn't go when I said go, despite the fact that was the one variable we were working with. Let's talk about your PTSD for a moment. Get your shit together, and let's do it again.
Yeah.
I really need you to trust me on this one. And then they do that.
Yeah, I think this is like the climax of the episode, right?
Yeah.
And the specific thing she says is like, you couldn't have seen it coming, and it's not your fault.
Yeah, it's good will hunting. They're good will hunting a bit. But it happens.
Mm-hmm.
It happens very frequently in media, in fact. So he sits down, he's like, I am gonna trust you. They have a little bit of a moment of like, I'm gonna close my eyes, get ready, and then go as the next wave comes in, and he is washed out of the accretion field of this like gravitational anomaly. They've also mentioned at some point, I don't really know how this serves the episode super well, but holographic engineer on the ship is like, all right, well, let's just get this data back. And he's like, no. Something like when the sensors got blasted, we also actually just need to get this ship fully out of the whole anomaly thing to analyze.
This ship is the USB, and it's the only thing we've got. Now, I didn't remember this episode super well. So obviously, like, what this does mechanically is, like, up the stakes.
Yeah.
But I thought he was lying.
Really?
Yeah, I thought this was, like, a bit where he, like, sort of sees what's going on, and he's like, if I lie to this man, he will have more reason to live.
Do you think that as we podcasted about media for many months now, we've intuitively just started lying to ourselves to make the episodes we watch better?
Well, I mean, it turns out he wasn't.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
Well, I mean, I think it's just a regular habit of like guessing what's going on. Though I do think like it's probably enhanced by talking about it.
Probably. But yeah, they get back to the ship. Everything's fine. There's a mention earlier from Michael talking about like Book's grief. So it's like, I just wish he would talk to me about it. I wish he would cry a bit about it. And this is where he does so. So, wow, full arc done.
Yeah, and we've got sort of like an auxiliary arc where Book is also connecting with Stamets a bit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really like none of these like seem that emotionally deep to me.
No, I think that's very fair. Their thing is like it's very awkward to start with. And I figured this is one of those things. Like I having not have seen this episode before, not really being familiar with the characters, I assumed this was Stamets, the engineer, being like, "I'm not a people person. I don't know how to deal with someone's grief, so I'm gonna be
Yeah.
a bit like overly cautious." And Book being like, and that this would culminate with Book being like, "Hey, just like treat me like a normal person, okay? Like, don't do the eggshell stuff."
Mm.
That's not what happens. They're just kind of referring to like an earlier conflict where Book saved Stamets' family, and Stamets was like, "God dang it! Now I know I'm useless,"
Yeah.
and that's why they have had a bad relationship for a bit.
Yeah. No, that's it. It seems a bit involved
Yeah,
narratively,
it's a
and it.
strange thing to bolt on to the story.
Well, I guess sort of like what is sort of happening is that he like uh connects over the feeling of helplessness, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
Except he was helpless in like something good happening.
Also, like the other part is that like Stamets was helpless, and then someone else helped him. Book was helpless, and then his family died because no one could help them.
Yeah, I know. He's sort of like he has survivor's guilt.
It's like
Um,
someone like comforting a survivor of the Titanic, but being like, "Oh, don't worry. One time my family also almost drowned, but they were fine." Dot dot dot.
well, some people were fine.
Some, but it does. You don't bring it up. I get it. Like maybe this is nitpicking, but I think if you're in that position, you're a little right to be mad about the comparison.
I mean, I think like it does kind of end up working in this
I
context,
think
right?
it's fine.
Yeah, and we have a what else do we have? We have like a little bit of meta plot with Adira and Gray, who are the sort of
Trill host and
yeah, the
symbiont.
oh, you remember the Trill.
Yeah, you
Um
showed me like the first like gay lesbians in Star Trek
I
being
do
about
love
ale.
the Trill. But yeah, no, they're sort of like part of like a little bit of a gay fan family they're doing like on the side. Uh
Yeah. What was
uh
this made again?
huh?
What was this show made again?
The first season came out in 2017.
That makes a lot of sense to me then, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it ends up just finishing with being like, and I don't know why they did this, apart from racketing tension, but the finale is basically like, so you know all that data we were looking for? I hate to say this, it's useless?
Well, sort of, right? Like there's two vectors of data. One is like we
What
need
is
to
this?
know where the anomaly is going,
Yeah.
and two is we thought we knew what the anomaly was, and now we realized we don't, and we need to work out what the anomaly is.
Yeah, and the thing they find out that I do not know is that like the anomaly is just moving around. They don't have like a direction to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's the episode.
Mm. And it sets up the anomaly as basically the
Antagonist of the season in a
I
way.
think so. It's more complicated than that, but that's more or less it.
This this episode and last to a slightly
Mm-hmm.
lesser extent makes me appreciate Strange New Worlds a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about this, and like I want to be careful because I think this is almost a recap material, and we're only 2 episodes into this show. There's something strangely hollow about this show that I can't quite put my finger on. And I think it's weird because, like, when we're watching Strange New Worlds, I think we kept referring back to the fact that, like, this is trying to, like, that show is trying to recreate an archetype of Star Trek,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this show feels like it is also trying to do that, but something about it just doesn't quite get there. Like, it feels like they're setting up, like, the flagpoles indicating where the thing is supposed to be constructed, and then they just stop there. Like, I don't know what I'm feeling about this, you know?
Yeah, I'm. Yeah, I mean, it. I think I don't want to speak on this too much yet because it is recap material to an extent, but also I just don't want to like poison your
Yeah,
perspective
yeah.
too much. Um, But generally speaking, this show is basically trying to like find a new way to do Star Trek,
Hmm.
and Strange New World is sort of like finding like a middle ground between the new way and the old way. And
And yet
yeah.
this still feels so like a repeat of something. You know what I mean? Like it still feels like it's trying to do a paint by numbers thing. And it doesn't have the charm the Strange New Worlds does to me. And I say that as someone who has not watched like any of the original Star Treks or
Mm,
any real amount of Star Trek before we started this podcast. There is just something that feels like it's missing, and it's hard to say what. I think, and I want to be careful of this one. I think the acting is a bit worse, like a solid step down in some occasions. I don't think I'm good enough to analyze what that is. That's not quite getting there.
mm.
But like every now and then I'm like something in this like exchange just isn't working. And one thing I can definitely say is that there's something just straight up busted about the editing. I don't know what's going on there either, but like there are some shots where I'm just like, no, like this is not working out. It's not conveying the intended meaning. There are so many dialogue scenes in particular where the cuts just kind of, there are too many of them and they go to the wrong target. And you just be like, there are like three people speaking, and you're zooming in on the third person standing to the side, being like, yes, things sure are being said.
Yeah, no, I think um I was going to keep this low key, but like camera work is not like my main deal either. But I've heard the argument made, and it comes together for me that basically the show is trying to do the like camera style, and I think like just like in a lot of visual style from the J.J. Abrams movies,
Yeah.
um, on like a TV show like amount of resources.
There's a shot in the middle of the scene where like the bridge is like coming apart and there's all like
Yeah.
electrical showers and stuff, and they do like this wide arcing like revolving shot, and I just kind of looked at that and I was like, the movement doesn't feel right, and it doesn't feel like there's enough stuff going on to justify the shot.
Yeah, basically like it's this that is more or less what the movies do, but the movies have like the like resources to be like, all right, we're doing like a sort of panning shot, so we're going to like like pan between all of these characters and they're going to be doing stuff, and here we've kept panning between all of those characters but they're no longer doing stuff, because like, you know, it's very like elaborate to plan. And the other like main offender, and I guess I'm just busting this one out now, is that like a lot of dialogue scenes are just the camera revolving around three people standing in like or like a group of people just standing like
Yeah.
facing each other, and like once you notice it, it looks very strange.
Yeah, I also think there's something else to it as well, where like I'm reminding of Strange New Worlds had like there's one thing I'm noticing with this episode and last as well, is that like the the pacing is pretty breakneck once you get into the action.
Mm,
Like it does not stop, and actually I think it quite worked for the last episode, pretty okay. But in comparison to Strange New Worlds, it feels like Strange New Worlds had the ability to be like, hey, let's vary it a bit. Like let's stop and breathe for a moment. It's not there are two settings action on and off. It can go up and down a bit more. And I think that helps make that
mm.
like when they have to throw in dialogue in the middle of the action sequencing here, it feels so off because it's like have you ever seen like a video game where they forget to give like a little pause between one line and the next?
Mm-hmm.
It has that feeling.
There,
Also, I will make one final note on this. Every now and then the dialogue is a little bit too much first draft of like, we need to convey these things. So character A says, it's me, Captain from X, and hello, Captain from X, I assume you're here about the MacGuffin.
yeah, like to me this is like a great overcorrection from earlier Star Trek.
Uh-huh.
Because earlier Star Trek is like fairly subdued on the bridge. Uh where like you don't like get the sort of like time pressure element like that much, whereas in this one uh like battles like or like just like action in general like happens at like an extremely breakneck pace, uh but like they don't, I think like both of them have flaws, and I I must be I must beg forgiveness for doing a little bit of a cinema sins thing here.
Uh-huh.
But there is just like one sequence where Tilly, who is one of the scientists, like figures out the gravity wave pattern from the black hole. And we smash cut to her running onto the bridge and saying, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is, we figured out when the next gravitational wave is gonna hit. The bad news is it's going to hit in 2 seconds.
I don't know if I properly clocked the good news, bad news of that moment.
But that and also like running onto the bridge as opposed to using the transporter, which everyone is using all the time, or the
Comms.
comms,
Yeah.
like it's a bizarre small thing, but good lord, it's
I was reading this interesting little like mini article slash blog post about like how our imagery of what like battlefields are comes from like the First and Second World War
mm,
mostly. So like when people make like a medieval war film, they're like, well, the trees need to be on fire and like there needs to be big pits where artillery shells have hit, even if like they're fighting with bows and swords. And I can't help but feel like this is something similar, where like the actual thing this is drawing from is like probably like a World War II like command tent,
yeah,
where
or
someone is
like
like,
maybe the bridge of like a destroyer.
yeah, where someone has like gotten a radio thing in their tent and is now running over to say
Yeah,
something to the general, right?
but the command tent is like being hit.
Yeah.
At which point, should you go there, it's up to fate at that point.
It is, yeah, like I don't know why. I think it does just for me contribute to like this general feeling of being a bit hollow.
Mm,
I think like and I honestly usually try not to criticize shows for this, but there's an amount of canned lines you can have.
mm.
Perhaps like there are some that if you have a low amount of them, they will sneak by and it'll be like, yeah, okay, that's a very like stereotypical repeated type of line. But if there's like one of two of them, no issue. But a lot of the dialogue here is that, right? I felt that most when we had the final speech by Captain Burnham, where she is doing the "it's not your fault," like you couldn't have done anything, and I'm like, there is nothing here that feels specific to the situation.
Yeah,
It's a bit too like first version of ChatGPT of a speech.
I think that is too harsh. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
uh, but yeah, no, it like the non-specificity of it is really like it's not just not specific to this situation, it's also like not very particularly specific to these characters.
Yeah.
It's like one person comforting another for something that isn't their fault but is hurting them deeply, right?
Yeah.
That is all there is, like in information content. Um,
I think it relates a little bit to what we were talking about last episode about the idea that like this crew is the best crew,
yeah.
and like the lack of justification behind that. It again, it just feels like a little bit too much like the mind map that hasn't like solidified into something specific, right?
Mm.
It's this generic outline of what a Star Trek show could be.
Well, yeah, but it again, like this show is like in the throes of, I want to say it's second reinvention here. I think like this show
Yeah,
like never like I think I think it never like really came together. So like uh, uh, like every now and then they're just like trying to like find their footing, and they never do in my view.
and that's sad.
Yeah.
No, like it's. I think like conceptually, like there's a lot of this episode that I think I would have liked. Like I
Mm,
like I like shows where there's like not a clear antagonist and there's a bit more about like let's find out about like I like exploration
yeah.
as a topic for this sort of stuff. And but even then, like I think that's sort of the thing I'm reflecting upon now is just how easy it is to find like cinematic parallels for this, right?
Mm,
You know, usually it's a bit more like, well, it's a bit like X meets Y, but here I'm just like, this is Storm Chasers. They're doing Storm Chasers and then throwing in it's not your fault at the end.
yeah. How do you like? How do you read sort of the like trauma part of this episode? Because like we do have like a little bit more of that.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about this too. Like that's it doesn't take too long to clock that,
Yeah.
right? That's like a theme, and that's fine. To be clear, like this is not meant. This doesn't need to be subtle. Is the way
Mm,
I would put it. I think there's the interesting part about trust as like the central mechanism here of like navigating trauma, right? I feel conflicted about how all of this comes across because one thing is that there's sort of like this early scene where like Burnham comes back from trying to talk to Book about his trauma,
mm,
and Saru is like, we all grieve in our own ways, and to me that's a fuck off, let him deal with it for a bit. Like you can offer your help, but you cannot I'm not even sure you can lead the horse to
mm,
water. You just have to put the horse in the water in the same general region, and in
yeah.
time those will unite, hopefully. And that's not actually where this goes, right? To some extent,
Mm,
like there's this element of trust, right? There's this element of like trust me to be good enough to do this. Like trust me that I am traumatized, but I can still make my
function.
yeah and make my own decisions about like what I can and cannot do. Trust me to do that, which they do go for, which I quite like. That it's not babying him, and I also think there's an element here that I quite like, which is the trust someone to make their own mistakes,
Mm,
right? Like trust your depressed friend to still try to run 5 kilometers, like after having stayed in bed for a year. Like, are they gonna make it? Probably not. But like, let them try and like let them make that mistake and let them feel that they have the like confidence and capabilities instead of just babying them. I
mm,
actually think that's a quite good take on trauma. And I like that there is that conversation about it. Um the one thing I do think is really missing, which you already pointed out, is the fact that this woman is doing the same thing at lower intensity, right? And that is just immediately dropped. I actually like flared a little bit there when they go like, sounds like you're obsessing too. And I'm like, let us, the audience, make that connection. It's not complicated.
well, they have to make that connection for us because they don't follow up.
Yeah, no,
I
I
don't.
realized that in hindsight.
It's just. Yeah, no, I don't really know what's going on with that. I. It feels like half a draft,
Yeah.
like rearing its remnant head.
It does feel a little bit like they were like, let's have this possibility open to show that like Michael is also dealing with this. And I think that's also like that's a potentially more interesting route is to have the like, hey, we are both hurting and I will like subvert my own grieving process to take care of you. That is a very real thing for a lot of people, right? And
Yeah.
like being the like suppressing hers, even if again she's
Mm.
probably less affected because like it's his entire
Yeah.
civilization being wiped out.
Yeah. So it just really makes sense in this case.
Yeah, to an extent. But yeah, like I think it is probably the best part of the episode. It's still a bit paint by numbers, but I think
Mm.
it is the most unique part that the honestly the
Yeah.
show has offered.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting, right? Because like he does like stumble and then like on like the brink of disaster, like accept help.
Yeah.
Um and then we have like the sort of counterfactual where Tilly's like, "Hey, I've not been feeling so good. Can I have therapy sometime?" Going like, "Yeah, yeah, all right." That worked. That
I
was very awkward. But that's the height of the tension in that counterfactual. You didn't like it because they were
they're doing Quirky Chungus dialogue, or at least like adjacent.
I think that is That feels a little bit true to life, honestly.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I have to like it.
All right.
You know.
Yeah.
I like it is that kind of character. And I don't think it needs to be purged from all media. But like I will go, oh, when it's happening. And I have the human right to do that.
Yeah. However, if you anything you need to do to ask for therapy, uh, you could be as quirky as you chungus like.
Beautiful. I love when we're being an inspirational podcast. I do also kind of like it because like I'm sure you've noticed, but I on the
Mm,
internet there has become a thing where you should go like, oh, just get therapy, as a default response to any emotional issue.
yeah.
And I kind of like that it's like on one hand it doesn't prescribe it as like an ultimate solution
Mm,
because it that's not what it is for Book
no.
and to a lesser extent Michael, but again they dropped that plot or whatever. But it is an open thing, right? It is
Yeah.
that you can just be like, I'm clearly dealing with something, but I'm also like in control enough to just be like, hey, can I get some of that like next time you have an opening, like
Yeah.
whatever, like a concoction of you know pharmaceuticals and or therapy. Like just let me get in on that and see if it works.
And luckily, you are talking to the correct person because the doctor and the therapist are one character.
Nice. Yeah, no, I've seen how that works out. Uh, it's probably fine.
Yeah.
It's the future. They probably have like an extra part of their brain. Some shit.
But yeah, I think that is like apart from all the action of which there is a lot,
Yeah.
that is sort of like the emotional core of the episode. And like it doesn't land that well, but it makes sense. It's like a
Yeah,
nice take.
there's no part of this where I would say it's incoherent, right?
Yeah.
And we have gone through plenty of incoherence in our podcasting days,
Yeah.
so I like to think of us as experts at this point at spotting it. And it's not that it just doesn't ring it that good, like it
Yeah.
doesn't. There's still that sense of hollowness to it. Um, and that's kind of where I land with this one. I don't know, like it's this strangeness to it, right? Where like I'm not gonna say this is like an awful episode.
No.
This isn't.
No, I think I ended up I'm very happy with my choice.
Okay.
I think this is like as like focused as it gets.
Okay. I mean, now you've entered a different variable into that, but
All the characters are in the same location dealing with the same problem.
we're doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, like it's very serialized. The like you may notice that the whole Adira thing has nothing to do.
Well, I wanted to ask about that. Like, what's going on with that? Because that's a pretty early scene where they're like, we're building you this new body, and there's a little commentary on like, oh, maybe I can fix like up this little physical imperfection now that we have it here, and we could just work on that. And I'm like, this is, again, storytelling principles. This is being established quite early. So the payoff surely must be important.
Well, you can't put it in the middle because in the middle the ship is being blasted.
Then why put it in at all?
Because it's a series. It's it's like most things are for the episode and a few things are for
The next episodes.
for
Okay.
the grand arc of this particular character.
I guess. I guess.
I mean, if we're like, there's a fair few characters who will have like a little bit of personal arc
Mm.
happening, right? There's like Saru's like, hey, I'm back. There's nothing more to it than that
I
in
will
his
say,
case, really.
it is very funny to be taken through this show as like a one episode per season, and then having the episode be like, oh my god, he's finally back. He's been gone for so. It's my man. He's back. Like every 5 minutes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, of course. My man Saru is back.
Yeah.
It's a bit bizarre, but obviously that's on us. That's not on on the show.
Yeah, I think like maybe the last episode or maybe a bit before that was like a very Saru-centric episode.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. The Tilly's thing is also a little bit of a like arc, and so is Stamets. And that one I have to say is like I feel like this one doesn't quite get there. Like, but I don't know, like, it is interesting.
To me, his arc is just him. He's being awkward.
Yeah, I don't know, like, he does find a way to relate, right? And
Yeah.
the way is to be vulnerable.
The fundamental, like, nature of being able to relate to someone is that if you get there, whatever you did is fine.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I think... I'm not 100% he's doing it right, but you know what? In hindsight, it is justified because it works.
Yeah, no, like, I think just, like, trying a bit hard and being vulnerable is, like, you know, it gets there.
Yeah. Go, Stamets?
Stamets, yeah.
Stamets. Alright, well, good going, tardigrade man. Is he a tardigrade by this point?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I can fly the ship.
And moving on from that.
I'm thinking of putting the tardigrade episode in.
I would love to, because now I had heard about this at some point in one of our like other Star Trek shows, just like when I was googling around for something about the spore drive.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah, that's what the black alert is about.
yeah,
When they're
no, of
using the
course.
spore drive.
Of course.
That's why it's a weird color.
And of course it's tardigrade spores.
Oh, that's a larger thing. But yeah, no, like, there isn't that much what's going on, but like it comes together reasonably.
Yeah.
Just, you know,
What comes together isn't necessarily worth watching for.
yeah, it's
sorry.
not that much. And, you know, like, yeah, it's like fairly pretty with the lens flare, but at other times it is just a moving camera.
I don't even think it's that pretty. I don't know if it just doesn't appeal to me, but it's just a lot of rocks in space.
It certainly costs a lot of money, I reckon.
I am certain that part is true.
But yeah, next week we will be taking another look at season 3 that time. I will be working out what's going on.
We thank you for your work, Jorgen.
Yeah,
Your work in the Star Trek minds.
So season 3 is the last episode in the far future, and then we move to the prequel part of Discovery. Just wanted to throw that at you.
Okay.
And yeah.
Why not?
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening, and see you on the other side.
Cheers.